Sevetri Wilson, the first Black female tech entrepreneur in New Orleans to raise $2 million in startup capital. A member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Sevetri is a first-generation college graduate of Louisiana State University. Building her first company, Solid Ground Innovations, or SGI, into a seven-figure success at just the age of 22. She continues to defy the odds in an industry where only 4% of African-American women raise significant funding for tech startups. Sevetri launches online platform ExemptMeNow, which simplifies the process of obtaining 501c3 and other requirements for nonprofit organizations via ExemptMeNow's innovative technology. She's won Businesswoman of the Year in Louisiana, the Nobel Prize for Public Service, Jefferson Award in 2010, and the Woman of Excellence in Business Award. She was also recognized by the Barack Obama administration, received the Bill and Melinda Gates Scholarship, was invited to be a part of the White House United States of Women Summit, and was also featured on Essence and BlackEnterprise.com. Sevetri was also responsible for spearheading Baton Rouge's first female and first African-American female mayor campaign to elect Mayor Sharon Broome. Sevetri, who also lost both of her parents by the age of 22, still managed to start her company with zero investment capital, zero connections, and grew it into a $1 million company. She says she often talks about her upbringing because she thinks it's important for people to understand her journey, especially those younger than her who came from a similar background. Sevetri's quoted saying, "I want them to know that if I did it with so few resources, they can do it too, and even better." Sevetri is truly a phoenix rising and a woman who is shattering the concept of the glass ceiling. It is my honor to welcome Sevetri Wilson. Sevetri.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for making the time. Here's why this is so awesome, right? Because you came on so relaxed, so just yourself, so in your just getting off of the plane. I know you're doing so much, but here I am preparing for this moment to speak to you and have this chat. And so before we got on, I'm like, oh, should I put on some more lip gloss? Let me just put on a little.
I'm like,
let me powder some more. And it was so refreshing that you came on here just so I'm serious, because a lot of the time we are focused on image. A lot of the time that takes away from who we really are. And I think it was meant for you to show me exactly how relaxed you are and how it's okay to be, doing as much as you're doing and still be able to be down to earth and just have a normal conversation.
Absolutely.
I'm serious. It's refreshing to see. Here you are, a busy woman jumping off the plane and still making time to share the message. I think it's absolutely amazing. Before we dive into the whole theme of Fireside Chats for Global Women, is to share our transparent stories, share how we've been able to climb through the trenches and seriously shatter the idea of the glass ceiling. So before we do that, give us some insight into SGI and also into ExemptMeNow. I understand that ExemptMeNow was somewhat of a spinoff from SGI with the problems you were facing there or seeing that your clients were facing. So
yes.
The breakdown of
so I started SGI, Solid Ground Innovations. It'll be 10 years this year, back in July 2009. Thank you. And we started as a core strategic communications and management firm. But early on, we were also heavily working with nonprofits. So we had a nonprofit management arm to the company. But as we began to really grow and take off, I decided that we wanted to move in a direction that would see us phase out our nonprofit management arm, primarily because it was very time constraining. It was very manual, heavy lifts on our team members. And for us, we knew that if we wanted to continue to grow at the rate we were, we needed to kind of remove that from the company's service. But in doing that, I felt there was opportunity to infuse technology in the way we were servicing those particular clients. So nonprofits, and then those who were deploying capital, so like cities, private foundations, and corporations. And so I set out to build a technology product to solve that solution. And that is where ExemptMeNow came from, which is obviously to simplify the creation, maintenance, and management processes for startup and existing nonprofit organizations and those who deploy capital. We're actually, ironically, going through a rename. So this may be one of the first times I've talked about it via interview, fire chat style, but we're renaming to Resilia. And we just really felt like that spoke to the direction of the company and where we're going and where we're taking ExemptMeNow to. And so ExemptMeNow will actually become a product underneath Resilia. It derives from the word resilient. And so we're based in New Orleans, but we're also opening up a sales office in Newark, New Jersey. And so we just believe like those two cities very much so speak to resiliency. And then our customer clientele, they have to be resilient to do the things that they do day in and day out. And that's to make an impact on the world and their communities and the people in which they serve.
I love that. So you're hitting both sides of the spectrum. So it's the fulfillment side, but it's also the strength side. There's the emotional connection to the name. I think it's absolutely amazing. So tell us where ExemptMeNow is, or future Resilia, where you are now and where you're planning to go.
So in 2018, we obviously went out and raised capital, and that was to essentially begin to scale our products and our solutions. This year, we're heavily focused on building out our team. And so we're hiring more people. We're ramping up our sales arm. We're moving from a company that was heavily focused on product and technology development, which we still are, but also laser focused on creating a sales culture. For us, we have some very ambitious but achievable goals that we want to accomplish, some partnerships and opportunities that we want to be able to land and bring in 2019. And so that's definitely has been our focus. We currently have like an amazing team around us. My COO, Ting Ting, and my CTO, John, are really amazing. So 2019 is definitely a year of growth for us.
Absolutely. Talking about adopting technology, though, I want to say that I read somewhere that your desire to get into the technology space had to do with receiving the Bill and Melinda Gates Scholarship, and how Bill kind of talked about how technology kind of opened up a new world for him. And with the growth of technology, we see where we are with technology. We're adopting it in every sector of industry. You name it, technology is being adopted, or some app is being created to fulfill that need. So in going out and getting capital to raise money for a tech startup, talk about how you've been able to apply some of those processes in attracting the right partners and getting in front of the right investors. How does that work?
So I definitely think there's like no one blueprint fits all. I think that it definitely changes based on where you are, how you look, your background, the schools you come from. And so I think that for me, the biggest key things were, one, understanding what was needed from a presentation perspective, meaning like what needed to be in my deck in order to present to investors, from laying out our team to laying out the product market fit to laying out the traction that we already had and what we were building in the future, how we were going to utilize investment funding in order to take it to the next level. Also just being able to have the network. And so I consider myself a networker at heart, but I was new to the tech space when I went out and raised capital. For me, I just had my head down and I was working and trying to get the product going and get traction. And so when I went out to raise capital, I didn't know anybody. And so I had to take a step back and figure out really how to look at like a spider web and connect the dots to what I needed and the resources that I needed. But also looking at investors that are out there and seeing like what type of companies are in their portfolio, what type of investments they make, what stage they invest in. And so if you're going after an investor and they only invest in a Series A and Series B or higher, and you're at a pre-seed or seed stage, they're probably not going to invest in you, and you're probably wasting your time. But I think people underestimate the power of introductions and being connected to investors, because the majority of investors receive hundreds and thousands of decks. And so it's like, what's going to make yours stand out? The starting point of that is who introduces you.
Right. Very good. Very good. There are a lot of what we would consider or call qualifying factors based on who you know, based on your nationality, based on what you know, what rooms you're able to maneuver through. But I know that it is a learning process, and you kind of learn as you go, right? You can't really answer all of the questions. You only know what you've been able to experience, what you've researched, and then what you've been able to do from there. But on your journey, in your experience, what was one of the critiques that you've received in pitching in these rooms full of investors who were kind of judging you based on being a woman, being an African-American woman, being an African-American woman in tech space? We know that there's kind of like a vetting process, and you have to almost prove your worth as soon as you walk into the door, just based on what you look like. So what were the critiques that you received that you knew, all right, I'm going to have to be ready and tough for this, and I need to make sure that I am mentally and emotionally ready for what I know some of these investors are going to be telling me, because I know it's not a process. I know it's not easy pitching and asking people for money for something that you know is a solution, but how do you internally deal with what you are about to go up against every day you step out of the door?
I think that for me, it's just going back to the word resilient. After a while, you realize that, okay, you have to definitely be resilient to keep getting like knocked down and told no over and over again. And so once you come to the point where you realize that that's just a part of the game, particularly looking the way I look as being an African-American and a woman, and from the South, which adds a third layer to it. And for me, we were going in and we had the team, we had like a pretty amazing team. But some of the feedback that we received was, can you prove your market? Can you prove that you really have a market? Well, I'm like, well, here's the revenue. And we're definitely showing that people buy it. But then but can you sell these people? So from our enterprise, I don't know if you can get to these numbers. So prove the market size is there, right? But then it became, can you sell these people? Can you close these deals? On the enterprise side. So I take that as like, can I, a Black woman, close deals?
So it's not enough that this is just an awesome product. It's not enough that maybe this product saves lives. It's not enough that maybe this product really solves a lot of problems, but it's the person behind the product that we're judging. Or that we're So, getting through that to me, that has been the biggest learning curve for me. Being a woman in media, or being a woman in healthcare, or being a woman in business, is proving or feeling that you have to prove yourself, and not just what you've been able to create. You mentioned that technology was not something that you studied per se. It wasn't something that you had a background in. You just knew that technology could fix some of the problems. How did you work yourself around that curve? Because, people kind of judge where you're not a tech person.
Right. The way I worked myself around that, when I started going to investors, we already had revenue in the bank. We already had traction. I already had a product that had launched to the public. So telling me that, you're not technical, but I built a tech product. I built and launched it to the public because I know how to build great teams, and I know how to build the right people around me. And so I would never go out and try to operate on someone without having a doctor in the room. Like, I know, I know what I know, I know what I don't know, and I know how to get the resources that I do And so that was something that initially that was like a barrier, like, oh, you're not a technical founder. One that became less relevant as time went on because it was pretty clear that I had created a sound technical team and didn't have issues with building out a product.
Right. I want to read a quote of yours, and we're going to talk about it. I'm going to read it first, and I already know you're going to have an expression on your face once I read it to you. All right. So with ExemptMeNow, I have to ask people for money. I have to pitch to people. I have to intake a lot of criticism, a lot of setbacks, and in all honesty, I'm a little bit out of my comfort zone. This has been a very humbling process. Fundraising reminds me of the quote from Hidden Figures. Every time you make it to the end, they move the finish line. Mm-hmm. Every time you make it to the end, they move the finish line. Tell us what you meant by that.
It's real. They do, because I would go out, people's like, oh, well, come back when you have this, this, and that. Then I would come back with this, this, and that. And then they were like, oh, well, come back when you have this, this, and you know, something else. And then I would come back with that something else. And it would just never be enough, right? And so I think that for us, and I knew for a fact that there were companies that these investors were investing in that didn't have as much traction as I had, that didn't have the team that I had. And it became what it was, right? It's like, okay, this is obviously, you know, you have met your quota of women or Black people that you're going to invest in this year. And I did not meet the quota. And that's just as real as it gets, because you can't tell me that, you know, people are out here investing in white males off of idea, or won't even invest in Black women who have almost 7 figures in revenue.
So it's the triple of having to prove yourself.
Yeah. So one, like, I just have a personality and like mentality that I'm not going to be denied. And then also I feel that like I was put here on earth to like break barriers, right? Really. And so I know that that's not gonna come easy. But then I also have to be like give more realistic and find like tangible solutions. And so if this is a block here, then how do I figure out another way around this mountain? And so for me, it's like, okay, I could be thinking about something, or I could be thinking about like, who do I know? What resources do I need? Who else is out here? And it's all about being able to have things that come together and that provide solutions to problems that you have. Because honestly, it's not enough to just believe in yourself, right? Woo! Like, Woo! I think, you know, we have to get out of like the good feely, good quotes, like keep going. It's like, keep going and what?
Woo! Oh, let me just take that in for a second, okay? I have to take that in for a second, because we do tend to just want to focus on, feeling good, or good affirmations, or write something positive on your mirror and get up and, you know, sunshiny day and everything's going to be all right and everyone's going to be on my side. But that's not life, right?
No.
Like, there's the yin, there's the yang. There is the dark, there's the light, there's the ups and the downs. And speaking of maneuvering around and pushing past towards your purpose. Your parents at the age of 22 transcended into their next level, as I like to call it, their next level of living, whatever that next level would be. Now we're talking about how to push past in a professional environment or in our working lives, but we also have personal lives that we're living outside of what the world sees. So although we're pushing in our professional lives, there is a pushing in our personal lives. At the age of 22, where were you at that point of your life? You had just launched, I want to say SGI, building a company, you know, having your own personal life, and then the news of your parents transiting. Tell us about that time. Where were you at that time?
Yeah, so my dad actually passed away when I was younger, about 9, and then my mother passed away when I was 21. And so she passed away a few days before Christmas. She definitely had a fairly aggressive form of cancer, and within 3 months' time, she was no longer here. And so the next year I started my company. I was definitely in the space of like, oh, okay, you know, can I do this? I've always been a person that I'm just a calm natured person, right? I've always like been that person in general. And for me, it became about, you know, what does the next part of my life look like? And so through college, I had always been a good student. I've always had like these plans that I wanted to do this and that. And those plans aligned with me being able to give my mother a better life, like the life that I felt like she deserved. And so when my mother passed away, I felt like that was taken from me, like the opportunity of her being able to reap the rewards of what she invested in me as a parent for all those years, all that had been like taken away from me. And so I had to think about like, okay, well, now what am I doing all this for? And so I started like to morph my thinking around, oh, I'm doing this for young women that look like me. I'm doing this for the individuals in the community that I have seen who don't feel like they can make it another day, another year, they can get to accomplish anything in their lives. And so my first company was heavily geared towards like helping community figures, helping, like I mentioned, nonprofits, and those aligned with like a social good in order to get their programs moving, as well as to ensure that they were successful. And so really I kind of pivoted my thinking around like, how do I become bigger mentally than just the people in my household, right? How do I transcend that and reach more people and have a bigger impact on people's lives? And so like that was like the impact that my parents' death had on me, but I also know how it can have a devastating impact on people as well. And I think I was very fortunate that that wasn't the case for me, that my parents passing away actually made me work harder, because then I realized I don't have any couches to return to. I don't have anybody to ask for money, you know? So it's like, you better get it or you're going, you know, you're not going to make it.
Woof. Okay. So I'm going to self-disclose a little bit here. So yes, for me as well, when we think about making it in life, even when we were kids, we probably said, Mama, I'm going to buy you a house one day. You're never going to, never going to have to work again. I've told my mom the same thing. And I haven't lost my mother to death, but we are fighting this so-called justice system on behalf of my mother. So although not a physical death, it's an emotional death. It's an emotional death. And so feeling the same thing, I'm going to work this hard and I'm going to establish these things because it's not just for me at this point. It's for those I love, and it's for those in our community. So thank you for being open to share that. I also call that space the fight or flight kind of mode, right? So either I'm going to succumb to this, or, as Stacey Abrams would say it, concede to defeat in this, or I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight through it. There are some people that attribute going through a dark time in their life or going through a difficult time, they attribute that to their come up or them rising out of the ashes. They attribute that going through a really tough time is what catapulted them to their next level. Because in that space, you only have two choices. Either you're going to fight or you're going to concede defeat. What was your point of turning around once you maneuvered through, because I'm sure you went through some emotional process where you kind of shut yourself off for a little bit, just to kind of deal with your own mental stability and mental health. What was one of the first things you decided to move forward in and getting yourself out of that space, of getting your head back in the game, of getting your business and established and just moving forward? What was the first established step that you made towards doing that?
So for me, so my mother passed away, I was in grad school. And so I never had the opportunity to stop. Like my life has been like kind of a continuation of the next.
Wow.
I do feel that I went through like a period of like silent depression, right? And so something that I felt like I very much so internally like retreated, although externally I still was showing up for people.
Oh yeah. But have you ever gotten to a place where you felt, you know what, I really need to take some time to kind of focus on where I am emotionally and mentally? I need to take some time to pull away from everything that I'm doing. And when you do that, what's some of the practices that you have? Do you meditate? Do you take a vacation? Do you take a long shower?
Yeah. So simple things daily would definitely be, always like pause, whether that's like sitting in my car for a few minutes. A good friend of mine, two good friends of mine, Jason and Summer, have pulled me over into meditation and practicing mindfulness. So that's something I look forward to in 2019, like really being more of a practitioner of that. And even previous, after my mother had passed away, a few years later, my friend was like, you should really go see a therapist. And so I really do believe in the power of therapy and like just talking to someone who's unbiased to release some of the stress or tension and to get, not even personally, but also professionally, like, you're trying to make decisions and someone helping you like think through an unbiased opinion about what you're going through, whether that's personal and professional, and then how those two intertwine.
Yeah, I have meditation sessions at my house some Sundays. I have some friends, and sometimes they'll bring a friend of theirs, and we'll sit around in my living room and have a very, kind of open townhome, and we'll sit on.
I'm trying to get on y'all level.
I'm trying to get there. I want to, and this is why I'm asking about it, because I know what it's done for me. Now, I have to ask you this, because with Fireside Chats for Global Women, the idea is to kind of give insight into where some of us may be now, and some of us who are trying to get to that next level, to being able to expand. I think I shared briefly about my company, Synergy Plus. We've adopted technology in the mental health space, in the special needs space, or intellectual developmental disability space. For those of us women who are where you began, what advice can you give to women who are a little bit fearful, but knowing that they have to make the next step to get to where they know they need to take their company? Because there's a lot of fear wrapped around, there's a lot of fears you have to face. To be bold enough to stand in front of some rooms where you're the only person in the room that looks like you. So what advice can you give to women who are in that space where you begin and facing those fears?
Yeah, so I think that, there's like this quote going around social media, and a saying, I'm not sure who's attributed to, but it says, do it afraid.
Ooh, Lisa Nichols.
And I think that, do it afraid, because I was talking to a friend of mine who is, she's doing some things that she has coming out of her comfort zone. She just launched her blog, she runs a boutique, and, she was formerly a teacher, and she left teaching to venture out and become an entrepreneur. And she doesn't even speak about herself as an entrepreneur. She was like, people ask me about things, and I'm just like, I don't know why they're asking me. I was like, because you have stepped out and done something. But she still has imposter syndrome. But I was telling her, she was like, oh, this is really scary. And I was like, here's the secret. All of us feel that way. Like, it's scary for all of us. Like, the things that I'm doing every day, I'm like, this is like pretty significant and big. And it's like, it's scary, because it's scary, even more so. It's like, what if we accomplish the things that we're trying to do? Like, that's scary to even think about it. And so I think that just coming out that mentality that there's going to be a point in life where our point in time where you're not afraid, and then that's when you're going to do it. It's like, if you wait on that time, you're going to be wait forever.
Good luck, pal. Good luck, pal. So Do It Afraid. Lisa Nichols is somebody that I follow. You've heard of Lisa Nichols?
Yes.
And I want to say she was one of the first people that I heard that said, do it with your knees buckling and your teeth chattering. And I said, that was exactly what I needed.
Yes.
Yeah, when you say do it afraid, because a lot of the times we're waiting for the perfect moment. We're waiting to feel something different. So do it afraid. Do you ever feel nervous when you're still pitching in front of investors, even though you've done it so much and you speak in front of quite a
I think that it just depends on the audience. Well, I'm always in that mindset of like, I want to like show up and show out for the people who are behind me or on side of me or even in front of me.
Right. But how do you deal with nervousness? Do you experience nervousness at all?
I mean, I have, like, that's something that I've dealt with in therapy, like anxiety. So you have like real bad anxiety. And so for me, taking deep breaths, like people say that, like, take a deep breath. For real, take a deep breath.
So I'm going to tell you something, right? I was invited to cover this event. And this is the first time I'm telling this out loud, but I'm going to say it, okay? So a friend of mine invited me. I was running late. I was a bit frazzled. And I had all of these thoughts in my mind to say, okay, I'm already running late. I'm not going to, be able to do this well. I get inside. I see my friends. I see my table. I'm going to sit down. And out of nowhere, my breath was short. I was getting hot. And I got up and I went to the restroom and I started taking some deep breaths. So I told my friend, I said, I think I'm going to have to go. And they said, is everything okay? I said, I don't know. I'm thinking I'm going to have to go. I get in my car. I'm down the road. I'm driving down the road. And I had to pull over on the side of the road and take more breaths. I had experienced my first either panic or anxiety attack.
Yeah.
I experienced it play out in my body.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, Tanisha, you work in media. You talk to people all the time. This is no big deal. No, it was a very, very big deal.
Yes.
People don't know that, in order to take on some of the stuff you take on as a woman or as an entrepreneur, as a family member, as a sister, as a cousin, as an auntie, whatever we're doing, it tends to play out so much so that it has an effect on your body. Mm-hmm. That is when I knew that I needed to take care of my inside before I could take care of anybody else, before I could show up for an event, before I could do anything. I needed to make sure I was okay mentally and emotionally.
Absolutely.
Yes, I still experience anxiety to today. You don't look like it. You interview people all the time. It's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, people probably think the same thing for me. So yeah.
I think that. So that's why, so how do you, what are some of the things that you do, some of the breathing exercises that you do before you're going into a meeting or before you're going to pitch or before
So for me, I'm the type of person that I like to be in silence. Just when people want to come and talk to you, I'm like, look, I need like 10 minutes. Like, I need 10 minutes. Please don't come and talk to me if you know I'm about to go on stage and do something.
And be okay with saying it too.
Yeah, but it's like, I'm literally looking straight through you at that point, right? Because like, I can't even think about what you're talking about at this point.
I'm not hearing it.
I just need to like tune out. So I know that's something that I just need to probably like step over to a corner or just kind of like be in my own thoughts. And maybe I think in time, that won't even be the case. But knowing what I know about myself today, that's the case.
Today, I like that.
Yeah. And so it's like, you evolve as a person and you get better at things as you go and you do things to get better, which is why I hope 2019, it becomes very transformative as I seek to become more knowledgeable about meditation and mindfulness. My friend I just ordered the Muse headset, right? And so I think it just came in the mail because I have a package. I think that's it. And so I'm really being intentional about improving as it relates to focus, anxiety, because like they say, like in order to do what you're about to do next, you're going to need complete focus.
You're going to need complete focus, and meditation can help to do that, and has helped to do that. That's why that's part of the reason why I adopted meditation, because I knew that there was something or some imbalance that I needed to deal with, because I wasn't going to let that imbalance keep me from getting to that next level. So
Absolutely.
if I need to detox, meditate, if I need to sage, if I need to,
but that's real. Like we understand that. Like being healthy, eating healthy. When I started back, I was like eating trash in December. When I started back drinking my green juices, like all of that really does matter.
Oh, it does. It does. And with meditation and evolving the way that we evolve and learning some of the things that we learn to apply to kind of balance ourselves out, there's still that human part of us, because we're still in these physical bodies that feel things, that come with emotions. We're still, sharing energy with other people who can affect where we are if we allow it to affect where we are. So yes, I'm looking forward to sharing more of this meditation journey and getting together and maybe having a meditation session on Fireside.
Yes, I love that.
Let that be live and say, definitely. We have our corporate selves, but we also have our Zen selves, our inner selves that we need to take care of.
And it's only going to be eased over time. Like, I was talking one time and I would have to listen back. I was like, oh, girl, you know what you're talking about. Like, you didn't learn things in this struggle, in this journey. And that was like about like some technical things, right? Because I'm not a technical founder. But because I did it, right, I was able to acquire that knowledge and the information. I was able to close the gap in understanding around, technology and do things I never even imagined that I would do as a non-technical founder. And I had to listen back to myself one time, like, oh, okay, you know what you're talking about, girl. And so it's like, those are the moments you're going to have on the journey, right? Yeah. So you're not going to necessarily gain that on the day one that start. Yeah. I had a friend of mine say, Tanisha, you really need to take the pressure off of yourself. You should look back at where you started. Look back at where you were mentally. Look back at where you were emotionally. Now look at where you are. There was a lot of internal changes that had to happen. So although people are seeing you on the outside, there's an internal journey or process that you're going through that's matching that outside, right? For sure. I always tell people, that's why I always tell entrepreneurs or people who reach out to me now, because I feel like my profile is a lot larger today, obviously, than it was 10 years ago, because nobody was even on social media like that 10 years ago. It was just kind of coming up. And I had to remind people, I've been in this for 10 years. Yeah. I haven't worked for anybody else in 10 years. Yeah. And so it just didn't happen overnight.
It hasn't happened overnight, although we are seeing the news coming out now because of the amount of money that investors have poured in.
Right.
That's what people's focus is. You raised so much capital, but you don't know the journey and all of these setbacks. You mentioned setbacks that I had to get to or go through to get there. Can you share some insight about what you consider a setback?
Yeah, there's always there's setbacks related to every day we have a setback, honestly, in the technology space. We set that to deadlines. You were oh, we're going to have this today, or we promised this to someone by tomorrow, and you miss deadlines. Those are setbacks. When we went out to raise capital, I had to take a step back to reset, to move forward, because I needed to figure out how do I go forward in order to raise capital. And so that was a setback. It was setback in time. And when you get setback in time, that impacts, money, that impacts your traction, that impacts just team morale. All these things are setbacks, and they happen consistently. And that's something that we have to really get our arms wrapped around. Something that I talk about often is something that my pastor talked about was dealing with disappointment. And I think that's something that we have to really get a hand around and figure out how to deal with disappointment.
Very good.
It's something that's going to always be there. It's going to be constant. It's going to be certain, and we should also realize that it can be conquered, right? But you might have to continuously conquer disappointment to get to where you're going on this road.
I love it. I want to say there was an inventor or creator that said, don't quote me, we air this. I can't remember.
To paraphrase, go ahead, to paraphrase.
Okay. I got to paraphrase. So this such and such didn't fail 1,000 times. There was 1,000 steps to make it succeed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, and I think that's indicative of being able to realize that, again, there's this yin and this yang that we're both having to deal with on the outside and the inside. Who are some of the people that you confide in to kind of remind you of that sometime? You mentioned your pastor. Do you have a close circle of people that you confide in you can call on and say, hey, I just need you to sing to me, or come over and give me a hug, or just tell me everything's going to be okay? Anybody you confide in?
Yeah, so I would consider like my group of friends or my sister tribe, and then I've also met people along the way, and then some of my mentors, right? I confide in them as well. But let me tell you, it took me a long time to get to that point, because I was always the person that people come to if I never had anyone to come to me or for me to go to, right? And so I had to intentionally start confiding in other people, because I felt like I was like by myself in this journey. And it is, sometimes you feel like you're by yourself. They said that based just on the sheer number, that entrepreneurs are some of the most depressed people, right? And so these are just numbers, like entrepreneurs are some of the most depressed people because the journey is so lonely and we feel like we are in it by ourselves.
I'm going to breathe for a moment on that one too. A mentor who I would consider a mentor said, when you're beginning a business or starting a business, that it's kind of like having a newborn baby that's not so cute, and nobody wants to hold it. Nobody wants to handle it until it grows and it's beautiful. It is a very lonely process. A lot of the times, you're sitting up late night working on your laptop, or you are sending out emails or figuring out who to contact next, or who to try to partner with next, and what's my next strategy, and what's my, and also feeling like you don't have all the answers too,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why it's so important to have like the right people around you, because you may be thinking one thing, you're like, okay, am I thinking, I don't have this answer, but how can I find someone who can I talk to either tell me it's okay, I don't have the answer, or to help me find the answer, or a person that has the answer. But then the other thing is, I think that going back to your point, as entrepreneurs, and you have like a baby that may be not so cute, even more so, it's like a baby that's always crying, right? And so it's like, oh my gosh, I'm tired. But you have to keep pushing forward, right? It's like, I'm tired, but I have to like do what I have to do. And so I think that as entrepreneurs, sometimes I think we could be searching for the end, but it's just a continuous, journey, continuous time that doesn't end. So I think that we have to kind of take that in and realize that, it's not going to be fun. Even me saying this, right? Even though I subconsciously know this, I still can like struggle on certain days where things just aren't going right. They aren't aligning in my favor. Maybe I receive like several no's in a week where I'm just like, man, I just need like this breakthrough. Like even with raising capital, the individual that became like my lead investor, he came at the right time, because I was like, I just need a breakthrough. Came at the right time and turned my entire round around, right? And so from there, I was like, dang, like he gave me the fuel that I needed to like really just jumpstart things and keep going, because I had reached like a low. I was like, man, like this is just like for the birds. Like this is not right.
Running on fumes.
When that's gonna happen.
Right. I call it running on fumes. And
yes, I was running on fumes. I was like, and the thing is, he didn't even do anything crazy, right? It was just like, he just gave that pick me up that I needed to be like, all right, girl, come on, you got this.
Right. You know, thank you for sharing that too, because I've often found myself, and I still find myself struggling with my own thoughts, you know, and having this chat with you has been refreshing, like a breath of fresh air, because even though you've experienced the same emotional stress or mental stress, it didn't stop you. It didn't inhibit you. Although there are times where we feel like, okay, I am running on empty, you know, I need a wing, I'm on a wing and a prayer. And it just so happens that something just falls through. And I want to go back to where we are now as far as ExemptMeNow. You're in 40 states now, and you still are bringing on members to ExemptMeNow.
Yes.
Right, our team members. So how are you recruiting? What do you look for in your team?
Yes. So hiring is, it's
I know.
And so, you know, we're hiring for like product manager, engineers, we're hiring for content management, for partnership and business dev, we hire for sales. One of my fellow portfolio company members has a company named Upsider that helps people recruit. So we've used other technologies, right, of startups as well, to help find people and source people. And, you know, we source people from all across the country. So we're at a point where we're scaling where our team, where being in office and being able to hear and listen in on those conversations daily as a team really matter to keep the connectivity of our team scaling. And so at some point, you know, I also believe in distributed teams. We do have technical team members, engineers who are offshore. So I do believe in distributed teams, but we're building like our executive team.
Okay, right.
And so for those individuals, we're obviously recruiting them to New Orleans.
Right. Do you ever find that you have to try to balance between your professional self and your day-to-day self?
I kind of get to show up as myself every day. And everybody doesn't get to do that. You know, right. I think to have the ability to show up as yourself every day is not something that everybody gets to do.
Right.
And I'm really appreciative of that. And because I have been an entrepreneur and in business, you know, my personal is professional, my professional is personal. And, you know, people are like, oh, you separate the two, don't take things personal, it's business. My business is personal to me. And that's going to be 100 with you. And so
absolutely.
It is. I mean, the thing is, like, you know who you are as a person, right? I think that I used to always give my friend Samori hell about the fact that I was like, Samori, they see you coming.
Why?
They see you coming and they locking all the doors. They putting up the barricades and you never getting in.
What does Samori wear? How does she present?
I say that from his personality. Like, he brought like who he felt the most extreme part of him. That's what he brought forward, right? When he was trying to get something done.
Wow.
I was like, you don't even have to bring your most extreme self or other things to the table all the time. Like, it doesn't make you less of who you are. And so whoever you are, you may have to bring a different part of you to the table. But as long as we talk about what you say, how you respond to things, when it comes to like your morals, your ethics, and all these other things, as long as those things stay the same, then it's fine, right? I'm the type of person that I'm gonna get in the door and then I'm gonna cause hell.
Woo!
And
like
so it's like, that's what I have to do. But I need to know what's going on in here first. I need to know what's happening. You know what? Well, who's at the table? Okay, let me sit at the table. And because people have invited me to the table numerous of times, expecting one thing, and then when I opened my mouth, they was like, "Who is this?" I was like, "Oh, this is me." Thank you for the invitation.
Hey,
but I'm here.
It's kind of like. It's kind of like what we call what's the name of the movie? The spook who sat by the door. Is it the spook who sat by the door or the spook who sat beside the door? Or I forget.
I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah. So basically, So basically the idea was to get in the door first and then change the rules later on.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I need to know how y'all play the game.
That's
so
right.
I can learn, because I need to know, we always say that as African Americans, and people's like, oh, create your own table. Yes, I'm gonna create my own table, but I want to know what you're doing at your table too.
Oh, high five through the camera.
And that's the way it should be, because it's like, oh, you had some head starts. You didn't learn a couple different things than I didn't learn, and you done a couple things differently. So I need to know. I want to read your playbook too, and then I go and build my playbook. And so it's like, yeah, we could build our own tables, but I want to sit at your table too, with all those resources and with 80% of wealth in the world. And so I can gain that knowledge too.
You better say it. You better say it. There's a duality to this, honey. There's a duality, and I'm going to bring my own folding chair. If that's okay, I see your table.
Exactly.
Take the Shirley Chisholm approach, and I'm going to come to your table, and I'm going to bring my own chair.
Exactly.
I got my own chair. Okay.
Exactly.
Now, tell us how we can stay in contact with you, how we can get more information about SGI as well as ExemptMeNow website.
Yeah. SGIcares.com. ExemptMeNow is still live as ExemptMeNow.com, but you can also visit Resilia.co. You can also visit my personal website to see everything, because I put everything on there, SevetriWilson.com. We're actually in the process of relaunching that as well. You can also find me on social media, just my first and last name, Sevetri Wilson.
Absolutely. Sevetri, this has been an honor. This has been such an honor. It's been so refreshing. That's how I feel. No, truly, that's how I feel. Especially the way we came on this thing, just totally relaxed. I'm serious. We were just so relaxed.
Regular degler schmegler, girl.
Regular, like, hey, girl. Hey, what's up? What was about? Huh? What you say?
That's really fun.
So I think it's honor, and that's the whole point of that. That's the whole point of this platform, is to be open, to be transparent, to share our stories of trial and triumph. And you are truly, truly who I would call El Lirios de los Valles, or Lily of the Valley. Growing up in Louisiana, your mother played a huge role in your life. Single mother, I believe you attribute a lot of your core values to seeing how she was able to be strong and raise a wonderful daughter as a single mother. I attribute the same power to my mother, and I tell people all the time, I am my mother's daughter.
Yes, right.
That's right. So one last question before you go. Government shutdown. How have the people of Louisiana, or those that are in your working circle or network, have been affected by the government?
Yeah, so I am so many things I could say about this administration, but
I know.
we actually impacted on ExemptMeNow on that product side, because one of our products is actually getting nonprofit organizations tax exemption. And so the IRS Charities Department, although they're accepting applications, they're not reviewing them. And so that actually has pushed our, generally, which is a very short turnaround time from our customers getting their exemption letter back a pretty significant amount. So we all have experienced delays on that end. But then also, even deeper than that, something that I was talking to a friend about as of the impact of just the country, the economy, and then individuals who work, which are the majority of individuals in the country who work paycheck to paycheck. That was my household. So I can imagine, my mother not receiving a check, not one check, but two, not knowing when she's going to get her next check, and how that puts a strain on families and their just day-to-day livelihood. And, I hope that the economy is able to bounce back for the damage that the government being shut down has done, not only to those working families who are impacted, but then by businesses who are impacted by just the, Wall Street, all those other things that impact us on a daily basis. And so it's definitely something that I'm monitoring very closely and have strong opinions about.
it's unfortunate that this is all due to just selfish gain and demise, and to me, just pure wickedness. When you talk about government workers and, for a president who should be overseeing their people and their well-being, that is just not happening. Many people are saying you can't tell your landlord that we're under government shutdown and I can't pay my rent. So we talk about families. We're talking about families with children who have nothing.
Yeah, people have no idea. I mean, unless you have lived in a household that lives paycheck to paycheck, like you really don't understand like what that means. People barely have enough when they do have a check.
Absolutely. So it's not even that in between anymore. It's just not even anything left over at all.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sevetri, this has been wonderful, and I thank you for your time, and I look forward to having you back by the fireside. And this time we're going to set up a meditation session, and we'll do that live.
Yes.
And have a lot of other people to log on with us. So you just
Sounds great
for that. I appreciate
Thank you again for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Enjoy your weekend. Bye.
Bye.
Woman, got a whole lot of nerve, she the flame in the fire. Woman, she's a lover and a fighter and a king and a mother. Woman, turn a boy to a man, build a whole empire. That woman got a story, with a halo standing in her glory. Woman, take a trip to the moon on the curves of her body. Woman, one hand on her pussy and the other on her Harley. Woman, she could dance all night, make your coffee in the morning. That woman, she from Venus. Don't play around, baby, she a genius. God give you the answer when he give you the word.